Hi, everybody. Craig Shacklett here with another casino business podcast. And we have got a legend in the industry. We have got Mark Wayman, the Godfather of Las Vegas. If you're an executive, you are in the casino business, I'm sure you know who Mark Wayman is. But Mark, for the few people listening that may not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I was a professional bowler when I was 18, but there was a lot of guys better than me. So I went back to college, and then I was in technology for 20 years. I was very, very blessed to be with two software companies. One of them was went public on the NASDAQ, and that was okay. But the second one was a real home run. A company called SRD that did, I got there right before 9/11. And after 9/11, we did counterterrorism for the government. Our biggest investor was the CIA, InQtel, which is venture capital arm of the CIA. So I did 3 years of that, spent some time in DC, did some bad guy stuff in the casinos, money laundering, slot cheats, black book, which is excluded players. And then we sold that to IBM. And so I cashed out, I had founder stock, and so I cashed that out. And I went and bought a racehorse and thought I was done. That was 15 years ago. And a CEO friend of mine called and said, I'm looking for some FBI talent. Can you help a brother out? I said, you know what? I'm done. I go, I'm retired. I bought a racehorse. He said, look, you still on the board of Make-A-Wish? I said, yeah. He said, I'll tell you what I do. You do this for me, I give you $50,000 and you give the money to Make-A-Wish. And that's how I started my recruiting business. So I called, back then it was called Harrah's Entertainment, and back then it was called Mirage Resorts. I said, you guys would pay me to do this. I knew them all from my counterterrorism stuff. And they said, yeah. And so I started out mostly doing high tech. And then I figured out that 25% of $1 million is way better than 25% of a $100,000 software developer. And so I kind of worked my way up the food chain. And, I think most folks would probably tell you that, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I'm probably as big a headhunter as there is in the casino business.
I don't think anybody would argue with that. And so, what were you when you were in the software business? Were you in HR? Were you in recruiting? Is that how you were able to transition? So
no, I was like a CIO type. So I was management, VP of technology, CIO, and then for 2 or 3 years I moved over to the sales side, just because the sales guys quit at the company I was at, and we had nobody to go out and meet the clients, and I liked it. I liked meeting people. Because I'm not a sales guy, I did a couple of things. The first one was I started a newsletter, which most people probably know me more for that than anything else, because I had several hundred people on my Rolodex and I couldn't keep in touch with everyone. So I thought I'll put this newsletter together, just trying to be who got hired, who got fired, and that was real popular. And then I started. I went to all the networking events, but I never met anybody that was really going to add value. So I started my own networking event. And I started out with 6 clients, and I said, look, we're going to go to the foundation room on the roof of Mandalay, and I'm going to bring Cuban cigars, and I'll pick up I don't drink, but I'll pick up your bar bill, and you guys can meet each other. That'll be the value proposition, is, you get to meet other quality people. These were all CIOs that are in the same line of work as you are. And so that was kind of how I got started with it.
And so did the nickname, the Godfather of Las Vegas, did it kind of naturally, because you became the connector, or how did you earn that nickname?
So the 6 guys turned into 50 people, still in the foundation room. And one night I invited the head of sales for EMC to come up. And she walked in the room, which was mostly men, and it got kind of quiet for a second. And she was, so what the hell? Are you the Godfather of Las Vegas? And everybody started laughing, and they started leaving voicemails and stuff. Godfather, I need tickets for Celine or whatever, and it just kind of stuck. And I thought, well, you know what? It's true. I'm kind of the good Godfather. I try to help a lot of people. My wife Ann and I are both very involved with charity here. When I retired, a friend of mine gave me a book called Halftime by Bob Buford that talked about the first half of your life is about your money and your career and your house and your car. But at halftime, at some point you say, what's my legacy? How will I be remembered? What's my real purpose? Because it isn't, placing people in jobs. What's my purpose in life? And so I thought, I've been a taker for 45 years, and maybe I should try to give back. And my dad used to say, if you take the elevator to the top, make sure you send it back down for everybody else.
Well, I definitely want to get into more of your charity work in a little bit because I know you do a lot of things that I think a lot of people probably don't know about. Now, going back to maybe the start of your career, the newsletter, where because everybody likes to hear, oh, who ended up where. Now, obviously, you say somebody got a job, they're pumped that you're spreading the word. Does anybody ever get offended that, oh man, he's telling people that I got whacked? Do you ever?
So on the new hires, I always get those good. And I'm glad you asked because I've got like 7 or 8 that started this month. And so I always ask the candidate that got hired if it's okay, if they're okay with it being in the newsletter. I also ask the hiring company if it's okay. For instance, Interblock, everybody's hearing this for the first time. Interblock, which makes electronic table games, was just acquired by Oak Tree Capital Management, a private equity firm. So I had to go to the CEO, John Conway. I do a lot of work for John, and say, is that okay to put in the newsletter, or is it some big secret? But he said, no, no, no. He goes, I'd be happy to have it in there.
Excellent. Now, you like you said, you've got start with an event with 6. Now it's grown and grown and grown. Mm-hmm. What habits do you have to maintain your network beyond, I guess, the event and your newsletter?
Well, that's probably 75, 80% of it. I do try to, every day touch 5 or 10 people, whether that's a phone call, mostly email. How are you doing? Sometimes I send out some mass emails that say, here's what's going on in Las Vegas. I'm very fortunate to consider Steve Sisolak a friend, our governor. And so, especially in Asia, I do a lot of work in Asia. And so there's a lot of expats down there that want to know what's going on up here. I'm not a very good sales guy. Some people say, I don't think I am. If I get a job, let's say like right now, I've got a $350,000, $400,000 CFO role. I'll put together an email to 120 CFOs and say, look, I've got a role and it looks like this. If you want to volunteer, great. If you know somebody, though, I'm really looking for referrals. Who do we know that would be a really good fit for this, right? Now, obviously, with 5,000 people in my Rolodex, I know a few that'll probably work, but referrals are a real lifeline. They really help me out.
Now, I've heard from people that you work with, Vegas is known for late nights, but you start your day super early. Is that right? I've heard 5:30 phone calls maybe once in a while.
My father was an alcoholic. He was a phenomenal man. He fought at Normandy. He was 101st Airborne. I'm looking at his picture over here. He was an alcoholic, and unfortunately, I inherited that gene, and I was an alcoholic. But I've been sober for years now, and so I did my late night partying when I was younger. And as you know, nothing good happens after midnight in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so since I started the business, the difference between being on salary and owning the business is, and you know this because you own URComped, when you're on salary, you get a salary and sick days and vacation days, and you become an entrepreneur, you get nothing. If you don't sell, you don't eat. Remember in 2008, I had that dry spell when everything fell apart in August of 2008, and I didn't sell anything for 3 or 4 months, and it was a little bit scary, but it shifted my timeline around to waking up at 4 a.m. because the Asia guys are still around. I think that makes it, 3 or 4 in the afternoon down there. And so I just got in the habit of getting up at 4 a.m. But I'll tell you what, I turn my phone off at 4 p.m. The end. It stays in the office. I don't respond to anything after 4 p.m., whatever it is. It can wait till the morning. I'll never forget, I had Felix Rappaport, the legend. He was a casino president with MGM forever. And I had him interview him for the CEO role at the Foxwoods. And I got up one morning and there were 3 voicemails from Felix. He said, Mark, at 7:30 p.m., why are you not taking my calls? I called him, I said, Felix, 4 p.m., buddy, I'm done.
Well, I've heard it said that in today's era of 24/7 accessibility, being inaccessible is actually a status symbol. So good on you for setting those boundaries.
The recruiting business is a 24/7. I think I provide a very high level of customer service. The way I like to put it is, I love Costco. I shop at Costco. This is not Costco. This is Nordstrom's, right? And that is a high level of customer service. You get me directly. This isn't Corn Ferry where you get shuffled off to the partner signs you in, then you get an associate. I mean, you get me personally every time. It also refers to compensation. I don't have the B players, and there are lots and lots and lots of B players. I have the Rolexes. I don't have the Timexes. I have a Timex. I wear a Timex. This ain't Timex, right? So you're going to probably have to be above market rate on your compensation, or you're not going to see many candidates from me.
Now, I know in recruiting, there's some people that are like, oh, we've got this 72-point assessment and all. Like, is your strategy, is it just you know everybody and you hear a role and you're like, I know the perfect guy? Is it a gut feel, or what's kind of your system for getting the right candidate in the right spot?
That is the best candidate, the best question a client can ask me. And I have 3 new clients this week that were referred to me, never worked with them in 20 years. All tribal, and they've been searching for people for months and they can't get anyone because nobody wants to move during a pandemic. But my pitch is always the same. Look, people hire me for 2 reasons. The first reason is I have 5,000 gaming executives in my Rolodex, right? So I've been around a long time. The second reason is because I know where all the skeletons are buried. I know they don't put drugs, alcohol, sexual harassment, embezzlement. Nobody puts that on their resume. I know everybody got fired. Okay. And so when I pitch a candidate, I usually know 10 to 20 years of their backstory, where they were at, why they left, do they have any personal issues? Because, 75% casino, 25% high tech, like IGT and Scientific Games and Interblock. It's the casino industry is not a good place for people that don't have self-discipline. And the first question on my mouth with a candidate is, do we have any compliance issues that are going to affect our gaming license? Criminal record, DUI, tax liens, any kind of financial problems, because it's coming out on the application. You might as well just tell me. So mostly I know everybody I'm submitting, 10% referrals, 90% candidates I know. But I do put them through a series of a dozen questions. Just so I want to make sure the money's right. I want to make sure they can relocate. Make sure there's no compliance issues that we need to disclose up front. So that's kind of how I qualify people.
Now, your LinkedIn feed, and if anybody's not following you on LinkedIn, I highly recommend doing it because you drop tips, you drop updates like you do in your newsletter, and you drop a lot of wisdom. And one thing I noticed that you've talked about, which is similar to a lot of football coaches that say the game's not won on Sunday, it's won in the practice leading up to the week. And you say executives, like the time to network is not when you're out of work. The time to build a network is when you're working. So I guess for executives maybe now that do have a job, what are 1 or 2 tips that you would give them to make sure that if that axe drops, unfortunately, like how can they be in the best possible position to land the next job quickly?
Yeah. So there's two golden rules of executive recruiting, and all this stuff was taught to me actually by a guy named Kevin Rosenberg at Bridgegate. He has a retained firm it's a boutique firm, recruiting firm, and it's down the OC. The first rule is the wrong time to meet an executive recruiter is when you're unemployed. Bad timing, because you need to understand the second rule, and that is I get people for jobs. I don't get jobs for people. Okay. I've got 23 searches going. I can't stop for all the cold calls and the fact that you're in crisis. It's not that I don't have compassion for the candidate situation, but if I don't sell, I don't eat, right? And I've got every one of my clients, God bless them, they got a sense of urgency. When he guy sends over a CFO search, he needs him now. He doesn't need him 6 months from now. And so I'm under a significant amount of pressure to produce. And right now, believe it or not, I know there's a lot of unemployment, but I work on mostly 200,000 and over, the really high-end stuff, and finding candidates is really tough sledding. I mean, nobody wants to relocate. Most people don't want to change jobs because of what's going on with the virus. So it's pretty challenging, And Kevin gave me the best advice that anyone ever gave me with regard to executive recruiting. In 2004, we had breakfast, and he was helping me because I didn't know how to be a recruiter. And he said, Mark, the pendulum always swings. Let me explain this to you. He said, it's 2004, there's 4% unemployment and everybody has a job. Nobody returns your call. Everybody kicks dirt on you. Nobody needs your help. But he said, Mark, one day the pendulum will swing. And when it does, all those guys that treated you poorly are going to be back pleading for your help. August 2008, the pendulum swung. And I mean, I text, phone calls, emails, it was unbelievable. And then guess what? February 2020, same thing again, you know? And you know that the way you treat people goes to character, you know? The other thing is that I have what I call an excluded list. When I worked for the government, for the CIA and the FBI, we had excluded lists. Those were very, very bad people. I have an excluded list of people that have burned me in the past. You know, a lot of people lie. They lie about their education. They lie about their title. They lie about their compensation. Well, guess what? When you get the job offer, we're going to check. And if you lied about something, you're out. I've only had 2 people in 15 years fail compliance. One guy failed the drug test, believe it or not, a CFO. So once again, you know, I know almost everybody that I submit because my reputation hangs on every resume. And I don't take chances.
Now, are you seeing a shift in what casinos are looking for in their hires, either new positions or titles being created, or maybe same titles, but new skills that casinos are looking for?
Not really. We got very quiet February, March, April. When everything reopened, a lot of people didn't go back to work because they were on the government dole and they literally could make more money on unemployment that they could. That was the biggest challenge for all the casinos. They couldn't get people to come back. It got very active, obviously, because of that. And then it kind of got a little quiet over the summer. But believe it or not, it picked up in December. I think the reason it's so active right now is because of the dearth of candidates. There's not a lot of people available, really, not the people you want to hire. And so, you know, clients, hiring companies think they can just put an ad on casino careers and that or Indeed, and they're going to get a lot of candidates. One of the new clients said to me, Mark, we had 100 candidates on the first day. We didn't interview one. I said, here's the problem with the online postings, right? Even if you see somebody who looks good, how do you know they weren't fired for sexual harassment? There was a guy that got hired recently. He's been fired for sexual harassment 3 times. How do you not do your due diligence and know this? So anyway.
I mean, it sounds, hearing you, talking to you for just the last 15 minutes, it's clear that you were made for that. You're in the perfect role. But let's say you weren't an executive recruiter, and obviously you did software, you're a CIO, but is there any other career that you once in a while think about, like, man, that would have been fun, or I would have been really good at that?
When I was growing up, I wanted to be a forest ranger because I like pets. My wife and I are very involved in some pet charities, including Noah's Animal House, which is the pet portion of the Shade Tree Women's Shelter. Because I like being outside, we like going hiking. My wife and I, we were world travelers for 5 or 6 years till the pandemic hit. I was very blessed. I was down in Macau last year twice because I placed an executive vice president and a senior vice president. And so I really enjoyed going to Macau and Hong Kong. We went on safari in Africa, but we did Antarctica, which I loved, but do it once, that's it. So you know, there's a saying, you never get rich working for somebody else. And I was always that IBM type of guy that wanted the safe career with the steady paycheck. But once I got over to, and again, I was just blessed. I was the right guy at the right time with the counterterrorism stuff. It wasn't that I was that much smarter than anybody else. I just went to a company that was really well run. And so we did well. You know, I can't imagine going back to the other side. I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy helping people that are in a tight spot and need a job. And then to this day, every time I place someone, we donate a portion of each placement to charity.
Yeah, and why don't we talk about that? We touched on it briefly earlier, but one thing I admire, and I know a lot of people admire, is how involved you are, not just with the donations. I understand you're on some boards of different charitable organizations. So maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the charitable organizations you're involved with.
Well, John Wolf, who was just a legendary casino executive, he was part of Binion's. His resume is too long to be. He owns House Advantage. They make software. And he got me involved with Make-A-Wish. He was the vice chairman. I think he might still be. He was chairman, vice chairman. You age out, then you come back as chairman. And I funded a wish for a young lady that had a horse racing wish, and I own racehorses. Here we go. There's my racehorses back there on the wall. I don't know if you can turn up, but they're there. Anyway, and I was on the board of Make-A-Wish, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Opportunity Village, but mostly the charities. We support them financially, and then when they'd host their big events, up until last year, we would buy a table. I'd sell tables. I would get them the SWAT experience for their live auction. But blessed to have some really, really great friends on the strip. Bill Macbeth at Cosmopolitan would always put in, Sheldon Adelson at the Venetian would always put in an auction package. And so that was how we added value. My wife is very involved with the Shade Tree Women's Shelter. She was on the board for years. More recently, we just try to do the financial part of it. The time commitment to do a great job for a charity is extensive. And so I found that introducing them to other donors and writing checks was probably the best way for me to contribute.
Now, you mentioned horse racing. You gave us a little glimpse. And by the way, before we started, I said you've already won the award for best backdrop of any interview I've done. So, so you were involved with horse racing. Do you have a favorite horse or favorite winning wager in your horse racing career?
Zenyatta, the filly that won. She lost her last race by a nose, but other than that, she was undefeated. And that was the horse that we took, Zoe, the girl from Make-A-Wish. She's 14 years old and had cystic fibrosis. And so I flew her around the country to watch Zenyatta win all those races. I invested in horses for about 10 years. I'm not in them right now, but it was just a passion. And for those that have a problem with horse racing, I guarantee you the horses get treated better and eat better than I do. Our horses are like gold. We love our horses. And it's a great hobby, but the only way to make $3 million or to make $1 million in horse racing is start with $3 or $5 million. Not a good investment.
So you're in Las Vegas. Do you play? You play any games?
Oh yeah, I like video poker and I like horse racing. I still play horses quite a bit. I have some friends that own horses. I actually did work for one of my idols this year, Ron Winchell. He's ECL Gaming, but he's Winchell Thoroughbreds. And he owns $500,000, $1 million horse. He's way out of my league. And then he and his friend, Mark Falcone, Marky was the CLO of Station Casinos, and they bought Kentucky Downs. They own their own racetrack. Now that's money when you just buy your own racetrack.
So, Mark, you mentioned sports betting. I know you're a sports fan. We're filming this January 20th, so it's before the NFC AFC Championship games. Do you have a favorite to win the Super Bowl?
I think it's Green Bay and I think Kansas City. Buffalo's playing so good right now. I thought Green Bay give the points this weekend. And Kansas City, I wouldn't touch that game, but I'll be rooting for them. But you know what? Last year, I loved the Rams, and I bet them strong in the Super Bowl, and I got Tom Brady-ized. Double-checked. I don't think Tampa Bay can beat. They're playing Kansas City, right?
Tampa Bay is playing Green Bay, and then Kansas City versus the Bills.
I love Tom Brady, but Green Bay looks good.
Yeah, I think if Mahomes isn't too rattled from that concussion, I gotta ride the Chiefs. Would be my bet.
He's like Tom Brady. He's just another of these guys that doesn't know how to lose.
Yeah,
he just does not. He can be down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. He's not going to let you beat him.
Yeah, as a Niners fan, I know that intimately well. My heart's still broken from it. Well, Mark, this has been so interesting. There's a million questions I could ask you, but I know that you are busy. But I guess in the last few seconds, is there anything I forgot to ask you that maybe the audience would like to know, or any closing tips?
Yeah, so I didn't really give the tips on the executive recruiting thing. Here's the thing: you need to have 1 or 2 executive recruiters in your pocket, someone you have a good relationship with that you stay friendly with, so that if you lose your job, Look, 85% of the jobs come through your personal network, your professional network. 10% come through executive recruiters, and then the rest of it is megabucks. It's just a lottery. Applying online to jobs, if you make over 100,000, it's just too hard, right? So just be friendly. No, you don't know any executive recruiters? Ask your peers. If you're the VP of marketing, ask your other VP marketing friends, hey, who do you guys like? Who do you guys use? The biggest tip that I can give any candidate is that, and this was given to me by my dad, is without integrity, nothing else matters. So be honest, be a person of integrity, because once you get that stain, whether that's drugs, alcohol, embezzling, sleeping with your secretary, whatever it is, man, once you got that stain in the casino business, it's hard to get out. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. So be a person of integrity. Just be honest. That's the best tip that I have for you.
And that goes beyond career. That's life in general.
Life.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This is super interesting. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. And I'd love maybe once the pandemic ends, I'd love to get your perspective on, kind of a reflection, a debriefing on the year that was.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. And as we say in Macau, shishi.
Shishi. My wife is from Brazil, and it's funny. Shishi means something totally different in Portuguese.
Is that right? Or
yeah.
Or if you're in Japan, it's arigato gozaimashita.
Oh,
so
how's Mandarin?
That's it.
Okay.
I got to know enough Mandarin that I can talk to the cab drivers in Macau.
Wait, so I guess I know we're wrapping up, but I was curious about this. I didn't drill in on it. So you're the Godfather of Las Vegas, but obviously you place tribal casinos, you place people all over the country, but you also work in Macau. And so how did you get plugged in there? Was it through like Las Vegas Sands and American corporations, or how?
I placed a head of money laundering in Australia. I placed a CEO in Canada. It's worldwide because I have that network of casino gaming people. And Kevin Kelly, who was the president of Station Casinos for a long time, he went down, and now I believe his title is COO of Galaxy Entertainment. And they were having trouble with a very high-end position, senior VP of slots. And then that worked out real well, and I sent them someone. They came back to me for the EVP of their table strategy, or as they call it, ETG. And I sent Mark Tricona down there, and that worked out great. And then Paul Baker is the head of SJM, great guy. He used to be at Wynn Resorts. Before that, he was with Caesars for a lot of years. Melco, David Sisk is the COO. He used to be at Sands, Genting. Anyway, so it's just my network, and these guys are very kind to remember my name. And when they get these very challenging searches where there's 5 people in the world that can do it, they call me.
So with the money laundering, what was the story with that casino in Saipan, the U.S. Saipan? I just remember hearing about this a couple years ago.
International. Yeah, well, there was a big blow up down in Australia with Crown Resorts. And so Matt Becker, who's the CEO of Star Entertainment, said, that's not happening here, right? Those are the 2 big, Star and Crown. And so I was, again, right place, right time. I had the former head of money laundering for Las Vegas Sands, and Howard Steiner, and I sent him down there. And Star's clean as a whistle, and they're all good. And this Sunshine International, Saipan, funny story. They called me years ago, wanted VP of slots to go down there. So what are you thinking? He says 150,000. And I just started. We were having a Zoom call. I just started laughing at him. He goes, "What's so funny?" I go, "You're on an island off the coast of Japan, for God's sakes." And I think they were in a circus tent. I go, "Nobody's coming for 150." I go, "The going rate here is 200, 225. I go, 300? I'm not coming for 150. So I never ended up doing business. He got offended, obviously. And so I never did business with them. But yeah, they had all kinds of trouble. We had all kinds of trouble here that didn't always make the news, from embezzlement to, did you see the whole thing going down in Korea with the 13 million that disappeared?
No, what happened?
Oh, that's a big deal. They had a bunch of money, and I know the guy that used to run that casino years ago. I won't mention the casino name. Those guys are all mobbed up. So anyway, they lost $13 million. I think somebody ran off with it, cash. Well, then like a week later, they came back and they said, hey, we found 6 million. It was like in a safe somewhere. Yeah, it's a really weird deal. Yeah, Asia's a different deal than the United States. Compliance runs a little differently.
What about the Caribbean? You do any work in the Caribbean?
I do. I place the CFO for Caribbean Card. Really interesting company. They are the 800-pound gorilla of slots in the Caribbean, run by a wonderful guy named Bob Washington. And his boss is RLJ, Robert Johnson, the founder of BET, Black Entertainment Television. Really nice guys. Was referred to me by Blake Sartini, the chairman of Golden Entertainment. Thank you, Blake. And I was able to get them a CFO, and they're doing really, really well. You know, obviously the Caribbean and the Bahamas, Atlantis and Baha Mar, I think Atlantis is still closed. You know, they've definitely got the pandemic down there. So it's been tough times all over. I got a guy who's supposed to start in Manila, the Philippines, a month ago, and the border's still closed in the Philippines. I can't get him there.
Well, like I was worried I would take up too much for your time, but you're so interesting to talk to. So, Mark, thank you for being so gracious. I really appreciate you getting on here with me, and please let's do it again sometime in the not too distant future.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, Mark.